عزيزي المشاهد، مساء الخير. قد يتبادر إلى ذهنك سؤال: لماذا نستضيف اليوم في حلقة خاصة فانيسا ريدغريف؟ لماذا نقدم لها برنامجا خاصا بعنوان ليلة سينمائية مع فانيسا ريدغريف، صورة ممثلة؟ ألأنها ممثلة عالمية، أم لأنها منتجة لأول فيلم وأخطر فيلم عربي عالمي عن القضية الفلسطينية؟ لأنها امرأة هجرت العالم الأرستقراطي الذي نشأت وتربت فيه، وكان يمكنها أن تكتفي بكونها ممثلة ذات بريق وشهرة، وهجرت ذلك كله وجاءت إلى الشرق الأوسط لتبحث عن الحقيقة وسط مخيمات اللاجئين. قد تكون هذه مجموعة من الأسباب، وهي نفسها تساؤلات، وهي في نفس الوقت إجابات. لماذا نحرص على أن نستضيف فانيسا ريدغريف هذا المساء؟ في حفل استقبال، في حفل العرض الأول لفيلم الفلسطيني، قالت فانيسا ريدغريف عبارتين ذات مغزى كبير كانوا وراء أو كانوا الدافع الأساسي وراء حماسنا لعمل ليلة سينمائية خاصة معها. قالت: أرجو أن تتقبلوا من هؤلاء البريطانيين الذين جاءوا إلى بلادكم شعورهم بالعرفان، لأنهم استطاعوا أن يكتشفوا أخيرا الحقيقة بعد أن جئنا من بلد هو الذي أعطى وعد للدولة الصهيونية، وعد بلفور، وهو الذي أعطاها الوجود بعد ذلك خلال الانتداب، وبعد ذلك تسلمتها الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. قالت أيضا فانيسا عبارة أخرى ذات مغزى: أن الثوب الذي ألبسه الآن لم ألبسه منذ آخر مرة ارتديته، وكان ذلك في حفل الأوسكار عندما فزت بجائزة الأوسكار عن دوري في فيلم جوليا. وهانا ذا الآن أجيء إليكم بهذا الثوب لأشارك في افتتاح فيلم الفلسطيني. ربما هناك أسباب أخرى، لأنها لأول مرة في الكويت يحدث أن تحضر ممثلة عالمية العرض الأول لفيلمها. ربما لأن الكويت هي أول بلد عربي يعرض فيلم الفلسطيني عرضا عاما. ربما لأن هذا أول فيلم عربي عالمي تقدمه ممثلة بريطانية. ربما لأنها صحوة ضمير لدى الغرب بشكل عام تجاه الشرق الأوسط. ربما لأننا ظلمنا كثيرا في العالم الغربي وبنتلهف لسماع أي صوت يقف إلى جوارنا. لهذه الأسباب كلها وأسباب أخرى لا يسعني ذكرها الآن، بنرحب بفانيسا ريدغريف. قد تختلف مع فانيسا ريدغريف، قد تتفق معها، لكن هناك نقطة لا خلاف عليها: أنها إنسانة صادقة وأنها ممثلة عظيمة. في المشهد الذي رأيناه من جوليا في مقدمة البرنامج، نرى فانيسا وقد انطلقت من الجامعة لمقاومة النازيين الذين داهموا الجامعة، وفي اعتقادي أن هذا مدخل طيب جدا للحديث عن فانيسا ريدغريف. هناك عدة مداخل سوف نتطرق إليها في هذا البرنامج في هذه الحلقة الخاصة، لكن الربط بين جوليا وبين فانيسا يظل قائما. جوليا كفتاة مناضلة تماثل تماما فانيسا، وهذه نقطة سوف نتطرق إليها بالتفصيل فيما بعد. لكن ما يهمنا ذكره الآن هو أن جوليا قد تعرض الفيلم، قد تعرض كبطلة. جوليا قد تعرضت كبطلة للاضطهاد من النازيين، وفانيسا في ليلة الأوسكار قد تعرضت أيضا للاضطهاد من قبل العناصر الصهيونية التي تمثل النازية الجديدة. Now, we have Vanessa with us in the studio. You welcome her. And I am sure we are very much eager to ask her a very direct question. We know a lot, or we have, presumably, we have now, some ideas about your political backing, support to the Palestinian revolution. But we are very much eager to know a lot about your personal development as an actress. So I'll put the first question right in this way. It's a very traditional way, but well, I'll put it, how did it begin? How did it begin to be an actress?
I began to be an actress because, as you know, my father is an actor, and my mother is an actress, and my family for many generations have been actors. So from the moment that I began to think that I too would follow in the steps of my parents and engage in this profession to act in the theatre.
Yes. So it looks as if it is a traditional, a family tradition or something.
Yes, yes.
That is it. Oh.
I never hesitated. From the moment that I was 5 years old, my father enrolled me in the Ballet Rambert school to train as a classical dancer. And this was my dream, and my ambition was to be a dancer. And I trained there for a number of years. And when I realized, and everybody realized, that I was too tall to dance for classical ballet, then, of course, I decided I would have to turn to the theatre and work in the theatre as an actress.
Yeah. But can you tell us about the early experiences you could have you could ever get through this, the
yes,
late
course.
50s and...
Well, when I began taking many dancing classes, and these taught me many valuable lessons. I not only appreciated the music and the work, but it taught me discipline. It taught me how to strive and to struggle, even when you're very, very tired, to do what you're doing better. And these were very, very valuable lessons I learned. At the same time, when my father had the time in the weekends, he would gather the whole family together round the piano, and he would play many beautiful pieces of music and also many songs in which we could all sing together.
Yes.
And he taught me how to sing as well. Mm-hmm. Later on, when I was just before I enrolled in a drama school, my father said to me that he thought I should have more all-round training, and he suggested that I should do some modern dance work and also go to a good singing teacher. And he introduced me to a wonderful teacher who taught at the Glyndebourne Opera Company and who had also taught actors at a school in London, founded by Michel Saint-Denis. And I worked for a number of years before I enrolled in drama school and during my work in drama school with this singing teacher.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. So that's why when you went to movies, you were well-armed in singing and dancing.
I was very, very well trained, you see, because then I did 3 years at a drama school, at the Central School of Speech and Drama. And this gave a very thorough training also in voice and in singing and in movement. But I must say that even more valuable to me than this training period in college were the lessons I learnt through dancing and through my father. And later, when I began to get my first professional work, the invaluable knowledge that I gained from watching my father work and later even working with him, I think it was an inspiration to me to see my father when I was very young working on the stage. And I have always looked to his acting as an example of what to strive for in my own work.
Oh, yes. What about Lady Redgrave?
She is a wonderful actress, my mother.
Yes, I know that.
Yes. I have to say that.
Yes, yes.
When I was young, she wasn't working so much because of the family. Now she works again very, very much indeed, particularly in the theatre, and I admire her work.
Mm. So she helped, with your father to enrich your knowledge about theatre?
Well, both my parents taught me to have respect for those I was working with and respect for the material and the duties and responsibilities of an actor to those he's working with, to the material he's working on. And they both taught me that if you are an actress, you're not going into the theatre or into films because you want to present yourself or show yourself off. You're going as a service to the community and to society, to try and express the truth, to find out the truth and express the truth of today and yesterday, of mankind's history.
You have a brother and sister also?
Yes, my brother
acting.
Corin and my sister Lynn.
Yes.
Yes.
They are still acting?
Yes, they
Lynn
are
is
both
working
actors. My sister works too.
in the United States?
She now lives in the United States, yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, did you have, when you started, this is a pretty precarious question, I don't know, but did you have, when you started, such a preconception of your achievement, your future achievement in theater? I mean, let's say that you thought of something to achieve through theater. Did you have something in mind before you started?
I had a conception that I would try to do truthful work. This was the main conception I had, to try and do truthful work. But to realize that conception, of course, I could only do that through practice.
Through practice. And how can you judge your early performances now? Your early stage performances? How can you judge them? I mean, if you are allowed to give a judgment now.
I think I can give something of a judgment because I was working with my father a number of times early in my career.
Yeah.
And he was a severe critic and a very good critic. And every evening after we had worked together, when we walked home from the theatre, we would discuss the work, and he would tell me how he thought I could better what I was doing, and if he thought there was something wrong with my approach to work in general or with what I was doing in a particular scene, he would suggest to me that I should reconsider my approach and give certain specific helpful points. So I learnt from very early on to be a severe critic of my own work, and I could only benefit from this.
Yes. You could.
I think my early work was good beginnings. It was just beginnings.
Yeah.
But thanks to my father and this training that he gave me, I think that he put my feet on the right road.
Well, if we move on this question to another, we will have the chance to talk about the early years. And the early years, as far as I know, they are those years of the 60s, in which you began to be...
My first job was in 1958.
Yes.
I earned £7 a week, and it was in a small theatre in a summer seaside resort. And I played 10 roles, and 8 of them I played ladies who were over 70 years old.
Were you
I was 20 at the time.
Oh, were you independent at that time? I mean,
yes, I was keeping myself on
week.
the £7 I was earning.
Oh.
So I and the other actors, we used to pool our resources, and we used to take it in turns every day to cook a lunch which we could all share. And in this way we managed.
I see. Well, look, Vanessa, during the early years, I'm talking about these are the 60s. Let's stick to the early 60s because they mark some sort of a turning point in your life. It looks to me, well, I don't know what you think, but it looks to me as if they are marking a turning point in your life. In these early years, to most people, especially outside Britain, your political consciousness and involvement seems now to have been suddenly came out from the recent years, you know, especially with the Palestinians. I mean, most people think, some people have their preconceptions, but I'm sure that most people, they don't know the truth about your political consciousness and how it developed in these early years. I mean, we have heard about Russell, we have heard about other things, but if you give us a short account about that.
It was in 1956 that I awoke with a shock to the world that I was living in when I went into the kitchen one morning for breakfast with my brother, and I saw the newspaper, and it said that the British, together with the Zionists and the French, were bombing the Suez Canal and that people were dying and their homes were being destroyed. And at this moment, I realized something of the world that I was living in, and I opposed this strongly. I felt great anger and great misery to see that this was happening, and I wanted to do everything that I could to stop this invasion and this destruction of Arab people's lives.
Did you take part in demonstrations in London at that time?
At that time I was only 15. I wanted to know what to do and where to go, and I didn't know where to find it.
Yes.
So my brother and I discussed that as soon as we knew what could be done, we would be there and we would do it too.
Yes, yeah. Well,
there were many demonstrations.
Well, if I'm going to express myself very openly, I will say that I'm against people who think that one gets, without any landmarks in his path, one gets all of a sudden involved into a political case. But because I think this is against the laws of nature. And I'm sure that you share me this opinion. Don't you?
Well, as you know, the laws of nature are such, when spring comes, it seems to come very suddenly one morning.
Yes.
But spring has been building up during the winter.
Oh.
And my political experiences, perhaps you could say, came also in this way, through a series of shocks and changes and realization that there were things being done in the world that were unjust and were wrong, and that I tried to do something about, and I had to learn what to do and how to do and go through a number of experiences.
Oh, yes. But I wonder whether you have been sharing the Bam Bomb in the early 60s in London.
Yes, I did. I was very horrified when I realized that there was an intention to use these nuclear bombs to destroy millions of innocent people. And I wanted to do what I could to help stop this. And at the time, Bertrand Russell was proposing a mass campaign to stop the use of these bombs. And he was proposing that those who had some professional reputation should sign their names in the Committee of 100, and that they should lead mass protest meetings and demonstrations, and they would refuse to move from the spot. And he felt at the time that this was a way to stop it, and at the time I thought, well, I must certainly do this if this was a beginning. And I did this. I joined in this protest with many writers and other actors and many thousands of young people who thought at the time that this was the way to stop the bomb and bring a ban on its use completely. And I was taken to prison for refusing to move, along with the other writers and so on who were also leading this, and the other thousands. And I shared a cell on several occasions with some other young people who were writing drama and so on in my profession. And then I realized that this must continue, but that this was not the way that was going to be possible to stop the use of this bomb. And indeed I saw that when the war against the Vietnamese people was entered into, that many bombs were being used, and the most dreadful weapons of war were being used to destroy not only people's lives, entire villages, but entire generations to come through the use of the poison weapons, as well as the use of the bomber planes to obliterate human life. And at this point, I wanted to stop the war against the Vietnamese people. And I entered into a number of activities, first of all to join in the demonstration in as early as 1962.
As early as 1962? Yeah. Oh, such early. Well, Bertrand, Lord Russell, I know that he has been in jail for taking charge of these demonstrations.
Yes.
Were you put in jail?
Yes, as I told you, I spent several nights in prison. Yes.
Oh, because of that?
Yes.
Oh. Well, because that's why I'm asking about Vietnam, because most people here, most people, outside Britain, as I have told you, that they know very much less about your taking part in the activities against the Vietnam War.
I spoke at many meetings, and I led a number of demonstrations, and I also engaged in work to help send medical aid to the people of Vietnam with the organizations that were making themselves responsible in Britain for sending medical aid.
Yes.
And also, this was the time that Jane Fonda heard of my efforts, and I met her, and we corresponded frequently during this period because we wanted to speak to the young soldiers and to give them support, the young soldiers who did not want to engage in this war and who did not want to kill Vietnamese people. And we spoke to them, and we did everything that we could to help them in their struggle to put a stop to the war in Vietnam. I did everything that I could in this way.
This by the mid-60s? This has been by the mid-60s?
Yes, that's right.
But I know that you have, there has been a statement by some Zionist and the pro-Zionist actors or actresses on the film industry in general, backing the Israeli aggression on the Arab states in
yes, that's right. This in 1967.
Yes.
I remember it very well. In the summer, I received a telephone call from a film director who supported the Zionists, and he rang me to ask me if I would sign a special statement that I think they were publishing in the Times supporting the Zionists' aggression. And I refused because I was totally opposed to the Zionists, and I would not sign such support. But I thought we were dealing with this much later, you see, so well, we can speak of it now.
Vanessa, are you taking part now in today's politics in England? You are?
Yes, I am.
What do you think are the main principles that are guiding your work in the political field in England?
As you know, there are very shortly going to be general elections.
Yes.
I stood as a candidate in the two 1974 elections, and I was also a candidate in the by-election last year in Moss Side and Manchester, and I will be standing again with other candidates of my beliefs in this election coming. And the first and most important policy on the platform that I will be presenting will be the defense of the Palestinian cause and the victory of the Palestine Liberation Organization. And I will be presenting the film, The Palestinian, as a central part of this campaign, and so will the other candidates of my beliefs, in order to strengthen the support and win even greater support of all those British people who can be won and who want to be able to express their support of the Palestinians and the liberation of their homeland, Palestine, and who are opposed to the Zionist terror tactics and are also opposed to capitulation to the Zionists. This is the most important part of the election program that I will be standing on.
So you have a specific policy, as for this point, as for the Palestinian issue in Britain,
this is
you have a
number
specific
one
military
policy on my election manifesto and of those candidates who will be sharing this manifesto with me.
You should be facing a hell of troubles, I think.
Yes, as you know, there have been many difficult times which I have faced because of the Zionists, and the first of this took place, of course, during the Oscar ceremony.
Yeah.
However, we are quite determined that we will never, never capitulate to terror threats against myself, against my family, against my colleagues, against the films that we want to produce for the Palestinian Arab cause.
Oh, that's pretty clear. إذا تحدثنا عن فانيسا ريدغريف السينمائية، هنقول إن فانيسا ريدغريف بدأت منذ عام 66 على وجه التحديد بفيلم موجهة، وأهميته الأخرى بتستمد من كونه أهم فيلم في الستينات للمخرج الإيطالي العالمي ميكالانجيلو أنتونيوني. وفانيسا بعد تكبير الصورة بدأت كما بدأ أنتونيوني ترحل إلى هوليوود دون أن تترك إنجلترا بالطبع. وفي هوليوود عملت مجموعة من الأفلام، نذكر منها كاميلوت، نذكر منها ماري ملكة اسكتلندا، ماري كوين اوف سكوتلاند، مع جليندا جاكسون. وفي الفيلمين دول برزت مواهب أخرى لفانيسا اللي هي اتكلمت عنها من شوية، وقالت إنه الرقص والغناء كانوا عنصر أساسي، وهما كما تقول دائما أحد النواميس الطبيعية التي يجب على كل ممثل أن يتعلم الانصياع ليها لكي يكون قادرا على تقمص الدور المطلوب منه. فانيسا ريدغريف بعد كده عملت فيلم في منتهى الأهمية، وللأسف ما عندناش جزء منه هنا في التلفزيون، لكن ربما تكون شفتوه، فيلم إيزادورا. وفيلم إيزادورا يروي حياة راقصة في نهاية القرن الماضي، القرن 19 ومطلع القرن العشرين، أحدثت ثورة في الرقص بمفهومها عن الحركة الطبيعية والرقص باعتباره أحد نواميس الطبيعة، وخرجت إلى الخلاء عشان تتعلم الرقص من الأشجار وتتعلم الرقص من عناصر الطبيعة ذاتها، وبالتالي ابتدعت قانون جديد للرقص وثورة جديدة في عالم الرقص، وخلطت بين فنها وبين ميولها السياسية، وكان أن ذهبت ترقص للجيش الأحمر في الاتحاد السوفيتي بعد سنة 17 بعد الثورة. بعد إيزادورا فانيسا ريدغريف أصبحت بتعرف كنجمة بيسموها سوبر ستار، يعني نجمة أكبر من النجوم يعني، وأصبحت بتعمل في هوليوود مثل هذه معاملة النجوم السوبر ستار. في وقت من الأوقات كانت فانيسا ريدغريف معروفة صورها كانت بتوزع كبوسترز، ملصقات، وكانت أشبه بالمانيكان في تلك الفترة. ورغم ذلك كانت فانيسا بتبذل جهد كبير جدا في ألا تبتعد عن المسرح، فقدمت معظم الأعمال شكسبير على المسرح الأكاديمية الملكية في لندن، وفي برودواي، ويمكن عندنا صورة شفتوها هي وتشارلتون هيستون على المسرح تعمل مكبث، وده حديثا جدا يعني ده في سنة 1975. في أيضا بالنسبة لفانيسا ريدغريف هي لها مفهوم عن الرقص والغناء طورته من كونه حركة طبيعية إلى اعتبار يعني الجسم الإنساني هو وعاء قادر على استيعاب كل نواميس الطبيعة، وبالتالي عند أداء دور تقدر تطلع جميع الخبرات اللي اختزنتها من الطبيعة في هذا الدور. وده برز زي ما أنا قلت في فيلم إيزادورا اللي هو كان يعتبر قمة أعمالها في مطلع السبعينات. في أيضا سألناها سؤال عن أهم كتاب قرأته في حياتها، هي بتقول إنه كتاب حياتي في الفن لستانيسلافسكي، وبتقول إن هي من أنصار مدرسة الاندماج في التمثيل أو الإفراغ الانفعالي اللي بيسموها أساتذة التمثيل الإمباثية. ولكن هنعرض لها دلوقتي جزء من فيلم هجوم اللواء الخفيف، وبعد كده عندنا سؤال ليها خاص بفيلم جوليا. هناك أيضا فيلم جوليا الذي عرض بنادي الكويت للسينما يوم الأحد الماضي، عرض الأول في الكويت بحضور فانيسا ريدغريف، والذي أخرجه فريد زينمان، والذي فاز في مثل هذا الوقت من العام الماضي بجائزة الأوسكار، أو فازت فيه فانيسا بجائزة الأوسكار عن دورها في هذا الفيلم. خلينا نتأمل مع بعض المشهد التالي الذي يعتبر واحدا من أبلغ المشاهد التمثيلية في تاريخ السينما بدون مبالغة، ولا يعتبر إنجاز حقيقي للثلاثة اللي اشتركوا فيه، فانيسا ريدغريف وجيم فوندا وبالطبع فريد زينمان. I have just mentioned in the Arabic commentary on the first scene which we have shown in this program, and the second scene, which is the famous scene in the cafe between you and Jane. I have just mentioned that the scene is heavy. It's very rhetorical. I wonder how could you manage with the character of Julia? It looks as if you have been empathized in by Julia, or she knew, or something like that.
Yes, of course, because it is a true story. Actors can do good work, but when actors believe in what they're doing and know it's truthful, then there is something very special, the empathy that you're speaking of.
Yes.
In the case of the character of Julia, this is a real woman that Lillian Hellman wrote about, and she was ready to sacrifice her life in the struggle to overcome fascism in Germany. Yeah. And therefore, of course, I had the strongest possible feeling for this woman and for the objective of her life and the dedication of her life.
Yes, but how could you, professionally speaking, how could you get through this character? Because in the scene we have looked upon right now, you look like as if it's a difficult scene, isn't it? I mean, you haven't been talking much. I mean, you are using your face.
It's a beautiful scene, and
yes.
In fact, when you read Lillian Hellman's short story, it's almost word for word, a little bit cut down,
yes.
Just a little bit simplified.
Yes.
Just to get the heart, the essence of it.
But is it only out of your belief?
Well, I had the greatest compliment of my life as far as my professional work was concerned.
Yes.
Was a remark that Lillian Hellman said to me after she had seen Julia. And she said to me on the telephone, "Vanessa, you are so like this woman that it's uncanny." And this comes, first of all, because I paid attention to what Lillian Hellman had written, the certain details about this woman, how she looked and how she spoke. And the rest was very simple because, of course, yes. I understand this woman and her objectives, her fight to overcome fascism.
But Lillian Hellman is the author of Julia.
Yes, she was the friend of Julia. She knew Julia, and then she wrote about her, and what she wrote is the basis for the film.
True story.
A true story. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did she? Did she or Zimmerman choose you for the?
Lillian Hellman chose me. Yes, she saw me play in a theatre off-Broadway in a play by Henry Ibsen, The Lady from the Sea.
Yes.
And she apparently telephoned to Fred Zinnemann and said, "Vanessa Redgrave must play Julia."
Oh,
that's how it happened.
Well, there is another question attached to Julia too, but it's not very, it doesn't, it's not linked with the film itself, it's linked with the character. You see, in that Oscar evening, you have met with challenges, I may say, and you gave a statement, a very powerful statement indeed, very precise and very impressive, very powerful, as I said. And in this statement, you mentioned that the Jews should be shamed of these Zionists out of the musical center demonstrating against me, while Julia defended Jews against the Nazis, against racism. That's right.
Yes, yeah. That's right.
Yes, I mean, could you put us in the framework, let's say,
of course,
of this Oscar night? Yeah.
Of course I can, straight away. First of all, I had to say what I had to say about Zionism. And in this, of course, the Zionists were very outraged. Why? Because millions of people identified Julia and identified my stand against the Zionists and for the victory of the Palestinian people and the Palestine Liberation Organization. Why?
Yes.
Because the Zionists are using the same methods as Hitler and the German fascists. Zionism is a racist ideology, like the German fascist Nazi ideology, and they're using the same methods against the Palestinian people and the Arab people, against the Arab nation. It is a completely Nazi Hitler method, the Zionist method.
Yeah, but you have been faced with the challenges also in the movie industry itself.
Of course, because the Zionists would like to not only stop me working, they would like to put an end to my life if they could do this. Many threats were made before the Academy Award and on the night of the Academy Award. A reward was offered by a Zionist at a meeting of so many $100 if there was somebody who would kill a Jew hater. Mm-hmm. And the producers of the film, Julia, were telephoned and threatened that every single cinema showing Julia would be picketed and would be prevented from showing the film unless they promised they would never employ me again. The producer of Julia, his house was picketed every night by the Zionists. He had to find somewhere private where he could stay. And so I also added that night that I saluted all the members of the Academy who had refused to be threatened by the Zionists into not giving me an award for my professional work. And they showed some courage, and I pay tribute to this courage because, as you know, when the Zionists try to carry out their threats, they mean them. And the way to oppose Zionists is to stand up and not be frightened, and to stand up for what is right, and to engage in the struggle to put an end to these Zionists' methods and their objectives and their policies forever.
But a blacklist has been mentioned in the 20th Century Fox.
Oh yes, of course. There's many producers will not employ me, of course.
Well, if I go further on this issue.
But I would like to stress to you
yes.
that in spite of the Zionist producers and their friends and their plots against me, and principally against the Palestinian Arab people, that I am absolutely convinced that a very great support can be won amongst the ordinary American people and people in Britain as well. I've had already much evidence of this. On the night of the Oscar itself, when many actors and actresses came to me quietly and said, "I wish I had your courage, Vanessa, because I agree with you." And since this time, in this past year, many, many letters and much support come from, and this is what's so powerful.
Yes.
And the Zionists will not have their way.
Mm-hmm. So some actors and actresses backed you? I mean, gave support to you, yes.
Yes, indeed. And I'm also happy to tell you that I have spoken to a number of actors and actresses, American and also Italian, European and British, and I've asked them, privately, I've asked them already, would they agree to appear in a film on the Palestinian cause? And they have told me yes, that I must show them a script, but in principle they are yes for doing these films. Mm-hmm. So I think this is an important contribution.
You won't mention names now?
Not now, but they will be mentioned.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, this is Julia. Has it been shown in London?
Yes, it has.
When? One year ago, or?
The showing of Julia in Britain came later than in America.
Yes.
And I will tell you something very interesting. As you know, I won the Oscar in the United States
yes.
last year for Julia. And only a week ago, in Britain, the British Film Academy had their award ceremony. The film of Julia won 13 prizes. I won no prize, and my name was not mentioned once by anybody throughout the entire ceremony. And I'll tell you this also. Outside the conference centre where the award ceremony was being held, there were 5 flags put up by the British Academy. 2 British flags, a German flag, a French flag, and the Zionist flag. And the big prize of the evening was given to a Zionist film and television producer. This was the British Zionists' answer to the American Oscar and the Palestinian Oscar. And I'm proud because to me that was a prize that I was not given a prize this time.
Yes. Well, anyway, this is expected.
And this was what was so wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, 1 week later, to have the great honor to be here with my colleagues who made The Palestinian, to be here in Kuwait, and to be able to present the film, The Palestinian.
Mm-hmm.
This was an answer to the Zionists, an answer to their participation in the Eurovision Song Contest, this insult to the Palestinians and to the Arab people. And I am so proud and so very, very happy, and so are my colleagues, to be here with you in Kuwait.
Oh, thank you very much. We are happy to. Well, there is the last question in this portion of Julia. You and Jane Fonda have a lot of similarities, let's say tremendous similarities in several aspects. She's a very good friend of yours, I guess. But through Julia, I mean, it's very much observable that you are getting more and more clear about generalities as well as specialities in your thinking. Is that right? As for Jane Fonda?
Jane Fonda is a very fine actress. And as you say, there's certain similarities. Her father, a very good and rightfully respected actor, and my father also an actor. And both of us began our careers and became famous in films quite young. And both of us were engaged in opposing the American war against the Vietnamese people. And I was very pleased to work with her again and to have an opportunity of discussing a number of important questions with her.
Mm-hmm. But I have read once that she is, some statement by her in Cineast, that's the magazine, a cinema magazine in the United States, that she is thinking now, she has begun to think of Palestine.
I'm very glad. Good.
She gave that such a statement very recently.
Did she? Good.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Excellent.
She gave it.
Good.
Well, that's fine. جاءت فانيسا إلى الكويت بدعوة من جريدة الوطن لتحضر العرض العربي الأول لفيلمها العربي الأول الفلسطيني. وكانت هذه المرة الأولى كما ذكرت لتحضر فيها ممثلة عالمية إلى الكويت لحضور العرض الأول لفيلمها. وكما ذكرت أيضا وأحب أن أؤكد أن الكويت هي البلد العربي الوحيد الذي بدأ فيه الآن العرض الأول لفيلم الفلسطيني. Vanessa, I have a question here for you.
Yes.
Of course, about the Palestinian.
Yes.
As we getting more and more exact about this point now. The question is, how did it come to be involved? How did you come to be involved, specifically in the Palestinian issue?
I and my colleagues who are of the same beliefs as I am, we made our contact with the Palestine Liberation Organization in the early 70s, and a number of my colleagues went to the Lebanon to discuss matters, and we then began to make plans and discussions for a film, as a film that could make a very important and specific contribution to the mobilizing of support of peoples throughout the world, and in America and in Britain, for the Palestine Liberation Organization and for the Palestinian people, and for the victory of their objectives, the liberation of their homeland, their full national self-determination, and a democratic secular state of Palestine. And this was that we were then able to prepare to do the film, which we began filming in June of 1977, at the time that the Zionists were already mobilizing for the invasion that in fact took place in March 1978.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So how could you get your information about the Palestinian issue?
From the Palestinians, of course. Really,
Yes, you
truthfully
directly
speaking, it is the Palestinian people who have made this film. This is the truth.
So you went through the PLO directly
Of course.
to investigate the truth?
Of course.
I see. I mean, did they help you in producing the film? I mean, providing you with the equipment or something like that?
Every collaboration was given, and of course the film could not have been made without this mutual and common approach to the struggle. And the objective was for the Palestinian people to have the opportunity to speak for themselves and to speak with their Lebanese brothers and sisters of the situation that they are in, of the lives they're living, of the history that they are sharing, and the history that brought them to the present situation, and to speak of their hopes and their aspirations for the future.
But do you know that you...
As you know, there has never been a film which has done this. So this is why I say the Palestinians made this film. It is their film. And I think as far as contributions that I have made and that others can and will make and are ready to make in the making of such films, that these films are not being made for the Palestinians. I would say rather that this is something in the way of paying some small part of the great debt that not only the Arab peoples but people all over the world owe to the Palestinians for their struggle which is defending millions all over the world, because Zionism is not only a threat and a danger, a mortal danger and a force of evil against the Palestinians, against the Arab nation, it is a danger against people all over the world.
Yes.
And so this is why we owe such a debt to the Palestinians.
And you made it jeopardizing your stardom.
Of course.
Bearing in mind all risks.
Stardom would be worth nothing if I was not identified with the millions of people who are in struggle to defend their rights, and first and foremost of this is the Palestinian people and the Arab nation.
Well, I have here so-called the last question. I don't know. It's not the last question, of course, but it looks as if it is the last question on this interview. We are really very much glad to see you here. What do you think about how can you figure out the future prospects of your film career, of your next film, Palestinian film project, and of the Palestinian revolution in the wider context? I mean, here are three levels, three questions in one question.
First of all, as far as my professional work is concerned, I, together with my colleagues, I will now put everything that I have no other films except the films that must be made on the Palestinian cause and on all those aspects which are an inseparable part of this cause, the Arab cause, which is also a world cause and world people's cause.
Yes.
So from the professional point of view, this is my career from now on. To answer your second question, the film that I now propose to make and have appealed for help, and I'm sure this help will be given here in Kuwait, is a film which will expose the reactionary and the bloody history of Zionism against the Arab people, and to expose it as a force of evil in the world, its whole history. I think this is very important to make this documentary. This will be the sequel to The Palestinian.
Oh, yes.
This is the very next film. And I also have discussed, yes, it will cost a certain amount, and I'm appealing for this, and I've already spoken of this to a number of people. I've spoken it to when I had the great honor of meeting with my colleagues.
Yes,
I met His Royal Highness,
yeah.
Prince Saad, and I spoke to him of this, and he was kind enough to say that he thought that this matter should receive his support. And I know that in saying this, he's speaking of the whole Kuwaiti people who see this question as being a very important contribution. As far as the Palestinian revolution is concerned, and the victory of the liberation of the Palestinian homeland, this is inseparable from the Arab cause and the defense of Arab unity. And this cause is in great danger. And first of all, I must say how important the achievement has been, which was announced today, the Kuwaiti proposal, which has had a unanimous agreement for the political and economic boycott of Sadat for his negotiations with the terrorist Begin and the Zionist regime, which was a stab in the back to the whole Arab nation. And talking about such things behind the backs of the Palestinians, of course you can't talk with the murderer of your family, and you can't betray your family, your martyrs, or your living. So this was a great achievement, an important achievement, this unanimous decision for political and economic boycott. And this, of course, greatly strengthens the Arab nation, greatly strengthens the defense of the Palestinians. And we must now do everything that we can to win the support of so many people throughout the world, in order that the Zionists shall not achieve their objectives, that there shall be no capitulation to the Zionists, and that the whole of Palestine shall be liberated and the Zionist entity crushed and put an end to forever. They are a threat to the whole of mankind, and those who support them are also a threat to mankind. And I am confident that the support can be won for the Palestine cause, for the Arab cause, which is a world cause.
So I can see that you understand quite well throughout of your interview with Yasser Arafat. I mean, you have got the basic elements of the ideology of the Palestinian revolution ideology. You have got them quite clear, and so your words are in fact expressing this ideology.
Yes, it is the ideology of all those who have the advancement of millions of ordinary people as their first interests, and the defense of basic democratic rights as their first interest, and the opposition to fascism, to Nazism, to Zionism as the number one objective, and the overthrow, the end of these murderous type regime.
Well, Vanessa, there's I said that this is the last question. Before we leave, what's that?
This is beautiful. This is the land of Palestine. When I arrived at the airport, and such a wonderful welcome was given by all the representatives from the Ministry of Information, from the Kuwaiti National Cinema, and from Al-Watan newspaper, and from the General Union of Palestinian Women here.
With Palestine in Arabic,
I was given Palestine, this small necklace, by a young girl who came up to me, and she said she had saved all her money to give me this present, and she put it round my neck.
Oh,
and I was very honored.
You deserve
I'm
more,
very
Vanessa.
happy to have it.
You deserve more. We are very much grateful that you come here, and we feel, I can't express anymore. I can't. We are very much grateful that you're here.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. I can't tell you how happy I am.
Thank you, Vanessa.
It's a real privilege. Thank you.